Where are they now? The 19 college football quarterback recruits ranked higher than Joe Burrow in the 2015 college football recruiting class 10 years later. To start, just in front of him at 19 is Alex Malzone, who committed to play for Michigan. And he got in some legal troubles, never playing at all for the Wolverines before transferring to Miami, Ohio, where he never completed a single pass. However, now he is currently the vice president of North Mark. And at 18 is Quinton Dormady, who committed to play for Tennessee. And in his 3 years of college football with the Volunteers, he just never really got that much of an opportunity transferring to Houston. And with the Cougars, he also really wasn't that good, only completing 2 passes, so he transferred to Central Michigan. And in his last year of college football at Central Michigan, he was actually a pretty good quarterback, but went undrafted in 2020, joining the CFL. Now he is currently playing for the Memphis Snowboats practice squad. And at 17 is Brett Rippon, coming out of Spokane, Washington, who committed to play for Boise State. And he was a dominant quarterback in his 4 years with the Broncos, being named the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Year and a 3-time first-team All-Mountain West selection. Despite that, though, he still went undrafted in 2019, never really getting to play in the NFL, as he's mostly just been a backup quarterback and is currently on the Colts practice squad. Then coming in at 16 is Sherrion Jones, who committed to play for Tennessee. And he only played 1 year with the Volunteers, where he never really got an opportunity before transferring to play JUCO football and then transferred to the University of New Mexico. And in his last 2 years of college football at New Mexico, he was also just extremely disappointing and is now currently a line cook and a driver. And cracking into the top 15 is Ty Storey, who committed to play for Arkansas. And he didn't get to start until his 4th season with the Razorbacks, where he was just never really that great of a quarterback, so he transferred to Western Kentucky. And after that, he was also just kind of a solid quarterback at Western Kentucky before he's now currently the Bentonville High School quarterback coach. Then at 14 is Zach Gentry, coming into Albuquerque, New Mexico, who committed to play for Michigan. And with the Wolverines, he'd actually be converted into a tight end, but became a pretty solid player there, being named a 3rd-team All-Big Ten selection. And that allowed him to be picked in the 5th round of the 2019 NFL Draft by the Pittsburgh Steelers, where sadly through his 3 years in the NFL, he was just very underwhelming. And following that, Gentry last played with the Las Vegas Raiders in 2023. And coming in at 13 is Jawan Jennings, who committed to play for Tennessee. And with the Volunteers, he'd be converted into a wide receiver there, becoming a pretty solid player in his 5 years. Following that, he'd be picked in the 7th round of the 2020 NFL Draft by the San Francisco 49ers, where through his first 5 years, he's improved every year and is off to a solid start in 2025. Then at 12 is Sam Darnold, who committed to play for USC. And in his 2 years starting for the Trojans, he actually became a pretty good quarterback, being named a 1st-team All-Pac-12 selection and winning the Archie Griffin Award. And that allowed him to be picked 3rd overall in the 2018 NFL Draft by the New York Jets, where sadly he was a bust through his first 5 years in the NFL before bouncing around the league. Then revitalized his career last year with the Vikings, actually making a Pro Bowl before signing a huge contract with the Seahawks, where he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season. Then just in front of him at 11 is Travis Johnson, who committed to play for Oregon. And he never played at all for the Ducks, transferring to Riverside Community College, where he played a year of JUCO football before transferring to Montana State. And at Montana State, he'd actually be converted into a wide receiver and was a pretty good player there, but went undrafted, actually winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before bouncing around and last playing professional football in 2023. And following that, he's now currently the franchisee and store operator of the Brass Tat. And cracking into the top 10 is Drew Lock, who stayed home and committed to play for Missouri. And in his 4 years of college football with the Tigers, he was dominant, actually leading the NCAA in passing yards and being named a 1st-team All-SEC selection. And that allowed him to be picked in the 2nd round of the 2019 NFL Draft by the Denver Broncos, where sadly in his 3 years there, he was a complete bust before bouncing around the NFL and currently being the Seahawks backup quarterback. Then at 9 is Ricky Town, who committed to play for USC. And he never played at all for the Trojans, transferring to Arkansas, where he also never played, and then transferred to play a year of JUCO football, where he just wasn't that great, only throwing 9 touchdowns. So following that, Ricky Town decided to transfer to play football at Pittsburgh, where in his 1 season with the Panthers, he only completed 1 pass. And cracking into the top 8 is Jake Browning, who committed to play for Washington. And he had a breakout sophomore season with the Huskies, and when going to play 2 more great years there, be named the Pac-12 Offensive Player of the Year. Despite that, though, Jake Browning still went undrafted in 2019, signing with the Vikings, where he never played before joining the Cincinnati Bengals as their backup quarterback the last 3 years, where he's actually got to see some playing time. And at 7 is Brady White, who committed to play for Arizona State. Brady White just never really got to play for Arizona State, so he transferred to Memphis, where he was a dominant quarterback in his last 3 years of college football. Despite that, though, he still went undrafted in 2021, actually playing a little bit in the USFL before last playing professional football in 2023. Following that, he decided to become a coach and is currently the Arizona State assistant wide receivers coach. Then coming in at 6 is DeAndre Francois, who committed to play for Florida State. He was a good quarterback in his first 3 years with the Seminoles, being named the ACC Rookie of the Year, but things began to catch up with him. He had all the talent in the world, transferring to Hampton for his last season of college football, where he was just kind of underwhelming, joining the fan-controlled football league in 2020. And after that, DeAndre Francois last played professional football in 2024. Then cracking into the top 5 is Brandon Wimbush, who committed to play for Notre Dame. And in his 3 years of college football with the Fighting Irish, he actually got to start and was a solid quarterback there before transferring to UCF. And in his senior season of college football at UCF, he was just very underwhelming, but became a very successful businessman, as he founded an NIL company, being on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list, and is currently the chief of staff for Real American Freestyle. Then just in front of him at 4 is Jarrett Stidham, who committed to play for Baylor. And he had a very good freshman season with the Bears before getting in some very serious legal troubles and transferring to play a year of JUCO football where he never played before transferring to Auburn. Then in his next 2 years of college football with the Tigers, he was dominant, being named the SEC Newcomer of the Year, which allowed him to be picked in the 4th round of the 2019 NFL Draft by the Patriots. And since then, Jarrett Stidham's really only ever been a backup quarterback in the NFL and is currently playing for the Broncos. Then cracking into the top 3 is Kyler Murray, who committed to play for Texas A&M. And in his freshman season with the Aggies, he was just a backup quarterback, so he decided to transfer to Oklahoma. And he only started 1 season with the Sooners, where he was flat out dominant, throwing 42 touchdowns as he won the Heisman Trophy and just about every single other award. And that allowed him to be picked 1st overall in the 2019 NFL Draft by the Arizona Cardinals, where through his first 7 seasons, he's had his ups and downs, winning NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. However, injuries and bad play have begun to derail his career, and he's currently been benched in favor of Jacoby Brissett. Then just in front of him at 2 is Blake Barnett, who committed to play for Alabama. And sadly, he just never really got an opportunity, with the Crimson Tide transferring to Arizona State. And in his 1 season of college football at Arizona State, he also just never really played, so he transferred to USF in 2018. And in his last 2 years of college football at USF, he was also just very underwhelming and is currently an account executive at Teamworks. Then finally, at number 1 is Josh Rosen, who committed to play for UCLA. And he was overall a great quarterback in his 3 years of college football, with the Bruins being named a 2nd-team All-Pac-12 selection and the Pac-12 Offensive Freshman of the Year. And that allowed him to be picked 10th overall in the 2018 NFL Draft by the Arizona Cardinals, where he's one of the biggest busts in NFL history, only playing with them for 1 season. After that, he was traded and began to bounce around the NFL and practice squads, last playing professional football in 2022 before he's now currently a student at the University of Pennsylvania.